Hi, it's 3:52 a.m. over here.
I can't believe that you're up at this time of the morning. Guys, it was like not even 11 o'clock in the morning, my time. I was just trying to make myself look busy in my kitchen. And I got a text from Tiffany saying, I can't sleep. Do you want to record? So she was having a midnight snack. I was having some 11s. And I was like, why not? So here we are, completely unscheduled. All my Station 19 gear that I normally wear is in the wash, so I'm just in like a random surf t-shirt. Tiffany is in her nightgown. I'm like selling you out that you're in your...
I'm in my nightgown. I am. It's okay.
But what a lovely surprise.
Yeah, I mean, they're not privy to our pre-recording chats. Um, and we just had a great pre-recording chat. I feel it was like a free counseling session.
We put the world to rights, didn't we?
We did. Yeah. So, that's one of the fun thing, guys, about these recording sessions is we always get to just chat for a little bit before, which is nice. I always look forward to those chats.
Me too. We don't have enough of them.
No, we don't. We'll have to get back to the normally scheduled program
We
after life
should.
goes
We
crazy
should,
the
yeah.
way that it did. Yeah.
How are you anyway? Apart from probably tired, I would have thought.
I do feel tired. But other than that, I feel okay. I feel great actually. Like we just had a great conversation. Yeah.
Good, good. I am still on a high from yesterday's World Cup semi-finals.
Oh, I believe it. Congratulations to the Lionesses, everybody.
Thanks, mate. I swear I kicked every ball with them.
Yeah.
We were watching. We've got like a setup in our back garden, which I can't wait for you to come over and experience.
Yeah.
But because it was a really nice day yesterday, we sat in the garden and watched it. And I was literally pacing around our garden. Julia kept saying, for God's sake, will you sit down? And in the end, the puppy came and sat on me. And that was the only way to keep me in my chair. But this World Cup has been awesome. And I'm so excited for the final. And I'm really sorry that I felt I had to bring that up. But I literally am still on a high. This is the first final we've been in since 1966. And that was obviously the men because women were still banned by the FA from playing football in 1966. So
No, it's I mean, obviously I was bummed that the Deutsches got kicked out so early.
yeah, I think it's the first time ever they've lost in a group stage.
Yeah, the Germans usually dominate in
Hmm.
foosball. They do. And it was rough to see. And the men's did poorly last time. I swear it happened after the coaches switched. We lost Joachim Löw. And then we
Yogi.
had a World Cup shortly after. Yeah, Yogi Love, they like to call him.
Yeah.
And then we lost Sylvia Knight, who was a phenomenal coach for the women's team. Sorry, listeners, you're getting a little bit of foosball history here.
MVT is great, though, I have to say.
Yeah, I know, but I'm living vicariously through. Do we know who the Lionesses are playing yet for the final?
Spain.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Spain can be tough.
Spain is it's going to be very tough. It's going to be a really tough match. They play a lot of heavy possession based football. They play
Yeah,
in a very sort of neat, controlled way. And then they've got some really dangerous people up front. I understand like the Bomati thing. Bomati is obviously great. And then obviously Alexia has been the best footballer in the world for years. I get it. But I'm actually scared of Redondo. I think Redondo has been the standout player for them, for me anyway. And then they've got Salma,
yeah,
this young kid who could have been a 400-meter specialist and then switched to footy at the last minute. She's dangerous if they bring her on as a
yeah.
super sub. So I think the two best team. I'm probably being quite generous to the Lionesses because we've had some scrappy games, but I do think the two best teams have made it to the final. It's going to be a tough one. I'm excited for Sunday.
Who did Spain have to beat to get to the final?
Sweden.
Sweden. Okay,
Yeah.
Sweden is
Yeah.
always tough too.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the Swedes are such big, strong, powerful players, and they just seem to dwarf the
Hmm.
Spanish team, who are just, smaller
Yeah.
in every dimension. But it just goes
Right.
to show that, physicality, although it is a massive part of the game, if you've got great control, and you take the chances that you're given when you get the ball into, the final third. That's what counts. That's what counts. So it's definitely going to be a
Yeah.
tough match. But I'm crediting the mug that you gave me as the lucky charm.
Ah,
So
okay.
I'm keeping it in the cupboard until Sunday because I don't want its magical powers to to wear off. It's so ridiculous, but like you get so superstitious with things, right? And like Julia's been doing this eating our way through the World Cup thing.
Yeah, that's been really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're both foodies. And so what we've been doing is we've been looking at the matches that have been on. And obviously it was easier at the beginning of the tournament when there were like 4 matches on. So you had 8 countries to choose from. We've been looking at the matches that are on every day. And then we've been choosing to try usually something new that we haven't tried from that country. And Julia's been cooking that every day.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we go to like our comfort food. So like Kurt and like we had homemade burgers when the USA were playing.
Yeah.
But so we obviously decide beforehand what we're going to eat so that we make sure we've got the shopping in. If anything has to be prepared beforehand, we can do
Hmm.
it. So because we'd eaten Swedish food quite recently, because we'd had the Köttbullar, when Spain played Sweden, we decided we were going to have Spanish food. And so then Julia said, okay, so what are we going to eat on Wednesday? And I said, right, we're not deciding this now. I said, we can have an option for Australian food and we can have an option for English food, but I am not deciding which one we are eating until we see whether Spain
Uh,
wins or not. If Spain wins, then we're going to eat English food. So it will follow that when we decide to eat English food, England wins. If Spain loses on the day that we've decided to have Spanish food, then we're having Australian food so that Australia loses. And so Julia's like, this is the most superstitious thing I've ever heard come out of your mouth. I'm like, hey, we're sticking with it.
what are you having for the final?
Oh, well, because I think kickoff's at 11 a.m., but all the preamble and stuff will start at 10. And so to give England the biggest boost we can, we're going to have a full English breakfast.
Okay.
And I'm going to have a pint of tea in my mug that you sent me. Had a massive pint of tea out of that yesterday morning. And the Lioness is obviously 131. So I'm going to have to keep everything the same. So I'm going to have a big mug of tea out of that mug. So I'm saving all its magical powers for Sunday. Obviously, that's going to be the difference. It's going to have nothing to do with the 22 women on the pitch and those that come off the bench. It's clearly what I eat
Right.
for breakfast and which mug I drink out of.
Yeah, which mug you drink out of for sure. I have that
Yeah.
same thing with my so American football, right? I'm a huge fan of American
Yeah.
football, and it's college football that I really like. And whenever my mom watches the game with me, my team wins. If she's not in the room, they lose. And so whenever we play, I'm like, you need to be in that seat and do not move until the game is over because if you do, we're gonna lose. So I have the same
Oh my God. You
stuff.
don't have to watch the game. Feel
No,
free to have like earphones in and watch
yeah,
Netflix on your phone or something.
yeah.
Just don't get out of the chair,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, like you can have your iPad and play your games like that you like to play. I don't care, but you have to be in the room. So I get it
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
We were going to record on Sunday, so I thought it was either going to be I was either going to be really hyper or really dour. So actually, you've done us
Yeah,
a massive
this is
favor
yeah, this is better
by bringing it forward till today, so I can be reasonably sensible. Reasonably sensible.
for sure.
Oh well, after all that footy chat, shall we talk about Station
Yeah,
19?
let's talk about why we're here.
Actually, we could have done with all the footy chat when we did the last episode because neither of us were mad keen on that one, were we?
Yeah, that would have helped make it. As people noticed, I was zoned out on that one completely. You're like talking, I'm like, Travis, you're like, Warren.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, oh, Warren.
Yeah, and I was speaking at a mile a minute as well because I was just trying to get through it. But this one was marginally better.
It was. What was this one called?
This one's called Let It Burn,
Let It Burn. Okay.
episode 107, and it aired on the 26th of April 2018. This one was written by Barbara K. Friend, and this was the only episode she wrote in season 1, but she wrote season 2, episode 9 and 216. And she was the story editor for season 2, episodes 13 to 17.
Okay.
So she's got a little bit of a pedigree.
Yeah.
We don't see her after season 2, but for the first couple of seasons, she was involved.
Okay.
And it was directed by James Hanlon. And this was his only episode of Station 19, but his previous project, also in 2018, was Chicago Fire.
Oh,
So he
okay.
did two fire shows back to back.
Okay.
So that's my only tidbit about the writer and director on this one. Not too much to say.
Yeah, not much there for them.
No. But we had a cold open in a dodgy chain restaurant in this one. One of the members of staff, dumps a match from lighting a birthday cake candle in the bin whilst it's still smoking. And as we know, the cold opens always relate to the incidents. So while we're there, should we jump into the incident? Do the incident first?
Oh, sure. Why not?
Why not, indeed? Oh, you look so cozy. Tiffany's pulling a blanket over herself. You look so cozy.
It feels chilly in here for some reason. I don't know why, but it does.
I don't know why. I should be over this by now. But it's midday here and the sun's out and it's like a sweatbox in my kitchen. And it still amazes me that we are talking to each other, and where you are, it's pitch black and chilly. And where I am, it's literally the middle of the day and warm. I should be over this by now.
I saw a news article that said that the UK was going to be hotter than California coming up. And in California, it's been upper 90s every day. And I thought, wow, Melissa's going to be hot.
Yeah, we're allegedly going to get a heat wave.
Yeah, I read about it and I thought of you.
This month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Luckily, we've got AC.
Yeah,
so
seriously.
We'll be all right. But I like the heat. I actually really like it. I'm like a little sun seeker.
Yeah.
My skin can't cope with it because I'm pale as can be, but I actually love the heat. So I'll be out there covered in factor 50. Right.
Sorry.
Talking of heat.
Yeah. Got us going.
No, please.
Got us going on a tangent. We're reeling it back in.
We're reeling it back in. No, but I love it. I love our chats. It just shows, though, I think, for people listening in, that we are friends.
Yeah, like we're not just talking about the show and being like, okay, bye.
No, exactly. You get a little insight into what it's like before we hit the record button.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. So, where were we? The incident, that's what we were doing. So, pre-incident, we've got Ryan turning up at 19 and he brings his fellow officer, someone called Officer Rice, and they have come to talk about doing one of their regular joint training drills, you know, like the regular stakeouts they do all the time that we've never seen before and have not seen since.
And we never see again.
Yeah, one of those. Forgotten storylines, anyone?
Another lost.
Yeah.
Yep, another lost storyline.
So Ryan and Jack are spiky with each other right away, and Officer Rice is completely oblivious to this. Ryan knows that it should be Andy's shift as captain, and Jack says that he hopes Ryan is just as on the ball when it comes to the drill as he is with Andy's schedule. And then Rice says that Ryan absolutely will be because he's a real Boy Scout, but in a good way. And she didn't mean to undermine his authority by calling him a boy. I quite enjoyed her. I thought she was really well written. She was funny.
Yeah, she was. I liked her too.
And it was just really effortless comic relief. It wasn't like very obvious. It was just, and she was a great actor as well.
Yeah.
I really liked her. Jack tries to withhold the reason that Andy isn't at 19 that day. And then Dean steps in and tells Ryan about Pruitt. And then Ryan is surprised to hear about Pruitt because Andy hadn't mentioned anything about that when he saw her 2 nights ago. So then Jack becomes visibly upset to hear that Ryan and Andy are spending time together. So Jack has put together the plan for the drill, and Ryan says straight away that it's no good, and they start arguing, but we're not privy to what they're saying because Rice pulls Dean aside and says that she's on track to make detective, and as such, she's able to pick up on their vibe. And she suggests that maybe Ryan has stolen Jack's lunch or his car because he used to do that. So Jack and Ryan continue to fight whilst Dean and Rice look on in dismay, and we hear that they've been going at it for 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Little things like this, I think, just made it a step up from last week's episode. Just these
Yeah.
little touches, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So the call comes in over the tannoy that they need to attend the strip mall fire. So Dean and Rice think they've been saved by the bell, and she suggests that they finish up going over the plans over email, which seems like a solid idea to me. But then she and Ryan get the same call over their radios, so they're going to end up attending the rescue with 19. So when we get there, the fire is huge. And because it was the dinner rush at the restaurant, there are tons of people there. So Ryan joins in with rescuing the patrons from the burning building. But Jack yells at him that he hasn't got a mask or turnout. And he says, well, neither do the people inside. And then he runs back in. So it's down to Jack to pull him aside, and he shows him that there's black smoke coming from the building, which means that it's toxic. And he says that the fire's gone too far to be able to salvage the building. So all Ryan can do to be useful now is move the perimeter back because the building's on the verge of collapse. So we see Chief Ripley again. He turns up, and I thought it appeared to me that he had turned up with the hope of seeing Andy in action. Is
Yeah.
that how you read the situation as well?
Yeah, because I didn't think he wrote Andy off the way that Frankel, I was going to say Fickle. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. The way that Frankel wrote her off, I think Ripley was giving her a little bit more grace, I sensed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah, I
absolutely.
agree with that.
So obviously we know Andy has chosen to be with her dad, so he gets to see Jack in action again. And there's someone on an upper floor with a baby in her arms that they need to rescue. And it turns out that the stairs are too far gone for them to use the stairs as an option. So the only thing they can do is get a ladder up as close as they can to the balcony that this woman's on and try and get her down that way. But Dean pleads with Jack not to do it because the truck is too far away for them to get the ladder to the necessary distance. And they can't get the truck any closer because of all the crowds of people there. So the whole thing is unsafe, but Jack goes cowboy again, as we know Jack is wont to do in these early episodes, and says he's going up anyway. So the ladder is grinding up to the balcony at a frustratingly slow speed. So then Ryan goes into cowboy mode as well. He gets dangerously close to the balcony, and Rice says that he's making the face that means he's about to do something stupid. And she's not wrong because he convinces the mother to throw the baby down to him so that she can jump onto the ladder hands free and have the best chance of saving them both. Now, Jack is either equally smart or equally stupid because he chips in and tells the mother that his friend Ryan, suddenly he's his friend Ryan, his friend Ryan's plan is the only way to save them both. So the mother launches her baby off the balcony and then launches herself off the roof, and they both land in the respective safe hands of Ryan and Jack, with Ripley watching on. Then Jack and Ryan kiss and make up, or at least shake hands, and admire each other professionally, if nothing else. Did I hit the main points?
Yeah, I have to be honest, going from last week, which was painachingly difficult, to this week, I actually teared up during this scene with the mom. And I don't know if it's because I have a young child, I have a 5 and 2 year old. I was picturing myself up there, right? And would I have been able to throw
Yeah,
one of my kids over that balcony? Like, I don't know if I would have been able to do that. And I actually did catch myself tearing up during that scene because it made me, as a mother, relate to it, which was a far cry from last week. So even though the incident wasn't the best incident, it still tugged at my heartstrings a little bit.
yeah, yeah. I'd actually written down to ask you whether you would have thrown your baby off the balcony. Would you have thrown one of your kids off the balcony? Do you think you'd be able to do that?
It, I don't know. I don't know if I could trust the person down there to catch my kid. If they would have had like we've seen in previous episodes where they have the big landing pads
Yeah,
that the firefighters fall in when they jump out the window.
like the blow up crash mat things. Yeah.
Yeah, if there would have been one of those for sure.
Or like a blanket stretched
Yeah,
out.
something, right? But
But also, it's a tiny baby and they don't have control of their limbs or their necks. So I guess there's the peril of if you're relying on a crash pad or something to catch the baby, I don't know, that sounds equally as dangerous because they don't really have control over their limbs and stuff.
Ryan could have at least been standing or sitting on one,
Yeah, yeah.
as a because I have throwing a 2 year old is a lot different than throwing. I mean, that baby looked like he was maybe 10 months or a year old, maybe. Um, so that's different than throwing a 30-pound 2 year old over a balcony. That's rough. So I don't know if I could have done that because my 2 year old's a little chunky big guy.
Yeah.
He's not small. So like, are you really gonna catch this bowling ball I'm throwing over the balcony?
Well, the thing is, I think I would have had some questions before I tossed my baby over. Like, I mean,
I have some
so I
questions.
mean, we were talking about like American football earlier. I mean, I think I would have said to Ryan, "Did you play football in school? What was your position?" I mean, I might trust him if he was like a wide receiver, but if he was like just the kicker,
Oh, I'm proud of you.
thank you. Or even worse, he could have
Yeah,
just been like a cheerleader, right? Then I'm like
right.
less likely to throw my
Well,
child over the balcony than if he's like, yeah, no worries. I was a star wide receiver for my team. I'm like, oh, have the kid. I just lob it right over.
I will say the male cheerleaders here, they toss the women cheerleaders up in the air and catch them. So I maybe would have trusted that.
Yeah, maybe, maybe.
Josh, if there was a fire and you had to throw our kid over a balcony to save them, would you be able to do it? If somebody said they were going to catch them. So that's the difference between men and women. Josh said he could throw our kid over a balcony. I cannot.
And Josh didn't have any
Oh,
questions.
too
He's not
funny.
worried if it's like a wide receiver or the kicker, right? He's just like, yeah, no, I'm just going to do it. Crack on.
Yeah, he had no questions. He literally was like, if that's the only way to save him, yeah, why not? And I'm like,
No qualms.
like, wait a minute.
Oh, man. It must be so nice just to be able to make decisions like
Yeah,
that. Just snap decisions like, yep, no bother.
that's one way Josh
Oh,
and I are
man.
good together is we balance each other out in the sense that he has like zero anxiety, like he worries about nothing. And when I'm worried, he's like, okay, let's look at this rationally. Like he's the rational one and I'm not.
Oh, to live like that. Can you
Can
imagine?
you
The
yeah,
luxury.
can you imagine?
Oh, man. Oh, well, we've established that this woman was a brave soul then to throw her child over to Ryan, no questions asked. So you were quite in it and you had a tear, and maybe I wasn't that emotional because I don't have children. Maybe if I'd have put myself in that place with like my dog, maybe I could have shed a tear. but but for me, it just fell a little bit flat. It was like a massive fire, right? And am I right in saying that back then they didn't use CGI fire; they used real fire?
That's how what I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So this would have been a massive production. It would have been really expensive. It would have been really time consuming to set this up. And I just feel like they could have made more of it. It seemed really brief. And yeah, and I wasn't that excited. But maybe it was because no one from 19 was ever in trouble. Like with previous incidents, we've had close calls with the people in 19, like the roof nearly going in when they had Warren watching the pipes so that they could have been killed. And then I think it was in the same incident, Dean was doing a top floor rescue and he got out seconds before the ceiling collapsed. And so I think when 19 are in jeopardy, I think that's when I get excited and feel a little bit invested in it. But I think maybe because there was never any jeopardy for Jack or Ryan, and they didn't really focus on anyone else. I just didn't get into it, but maybe that was just me.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we didn't even no, we didn't even really see any of the other cast doing anything during the incident. It just focused on Jack. We saw Dean a little bit, and that was it. Like we didn't see, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly, we didn't see Maya doing anything. We didn't see Vic doing anything. We didn't, I mean, Ben was with Andy, but we didn't really see
No.
much going on other
Yeah.
than that. Yeah.
No. No. So it just didn't really do it for me. But I think it went a long way to building up for us, like in our minds, like trying to lead the audience down the path of Jack is first in line for the captaincy because Ripley gets to see him in action again.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel that that's what they're trying to do as well, if they're trying to steer us in that direction.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing that I wanted to ask your opinion on is, do you think Jack deliberately withheld Pruitt's condition from Ryan to stop Ryan from swooping in and helping Andy? Because do you remember Jack got the ump before? Because it was during the Blue Fire incident. They were all obviously out with the Blue Fire, and Ryan went and picked Pruitt up from hospital and brought him to 19. And Jack got the ump because Ryan had brought Pruitt home. So do you think that Jack has kind of tried to withhold it from Ryan so that Ryan can't white knight it and go to the hospital and check in on everybody? Or do you think he's doing it to protect Pruitt's privacy? Which do you think it is? Or do you think it's a bit of both?
I don't think it's to protect Pruitt's privacy. I think Jack is more calculated than that when it comes to Andy, especially in
Yeah.
these early episodes. Um, and we'll see in a couple episodes coming up, um, just how Jack feels about Ryan. Um, and so I do think we're still in that deep jealousy phase right now. And so I think it's driven by jealousy.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought so too. But I didn't know if I wasn't giving him enough credit. But you agree
Yeah,
that he's deliberately withholding information about Andy to get one over on Ryan, a bit of one-upmanship.
I do, because if it was about protecting Pruitt's privacy, they talk about it amongst themselves quite a bit in the station. And I think that wouldn't happen.
Yes.
Um, and so yeah, I think it's definitely jealousy for sure.
So he's still not over Andy.
Well, can you blame him? That was a train wreck. Poor guy.
Yeah, bless him. Hopefully he'll come around to seeing that she did not treat him in an honourable way, and that will help him to get over her.
Yeah.
Poor dude. So, was there anything else that you wanted to say about that situation, either the rescue or stuff between Ryan and Jack, or have we covered it all off?
No, I think that was pretty much the incident.
Coolio. So, the next thing I've got on my list is the Ben and Bailey stuff. There wasn't much, but there was a little bit of Ben and Bailey stuff. So Bailey hears from Pruitt that there have been some big calls lately, one of which, the Marshall incident, affected Ben really badly. So she finds out this from Pruitt, therefore finding out that Ben has been keeping things from her. And then when Warren goes home to Bailey, she tells him that he smells like a chimney, and he says that the last call, the reason he smells like a chimney was no big deal. So she calls him on that and tells him that Pruitt's told her that he's had some near misses lately that he's been keeping from her, and says that he's lucky that he has someone to unload on in her, and that she wants him to do that. She wants him to unload, and keeping things from each other isn't who they are. And he tells her that because he was at the hospital with Andy for the bulk of that call, he missed out on most of the fire and he was there just literally on cleanup duty. But he admits that he has been keeping things from her, just not this particular incident, and that he won't do so in the future. I mean, I don't have much to say about that other than I think the partners and spouses of firefighters are a whole different breed of brave, and that everyone needs a Miranda Bailey in their life. I do think it's nice when we see things from the partner's perspective, because I can't imagine sending Julia out there every day wondering if she's going to come to serious harm or not come home. So I think it's great to see that perspective. And I think it's really great for Ben that he's got someone like Miranda who is brave enough to say, let me hear it. Let me hear everything, good, bad, and ugly. Let me hear it, because it's no good to you keeping it all inside.
Yeah, I love Miranda Bailey. I love that character so much, and I love that they
Oh, God,
brought
yeah.
her on to Station 19 so we can, you know, see her because I don't watch Grace. And so I love those scenes. I don't have much to say about this scene. I think it was pretty straightforward. You know, there's not much to talk about.
No.
My favorite scene with Ben and Bailey was in the beginning of the episode
Yes.
when she drops him off at work. That I have more to say about that one than this one.
Yeah. I've done that under the Pruitt bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll look forward to hearing your perspective when we get down to that bit. I just thought I'd do like the little bits, like the bitty bits first, and then the meatier stuff at the end.
Yeah.
So Travis, I thought, was like a bitty bit as well. So he has taken Vic to yoga, presumably in an effort to help her with her fear of fire. And they bump into Grant, the handsome grandson of Edith. And Grant asks if they can exchange numbers and gives Travis his business card. But Vic seems more excited about it than Travis. Then Travis gets called to the nursing home where Edith is because she's called for an aid car due to having trouble breathing. But she miraculously feels much, much better when Travis turns up, shortly followed by Grant, who she's also called. And she says to Travis that she knows that they bumped into each other at yoga and calls Travis out for not being particularly excited that Grant's given him his phone number. And then she shows off about Grant, saying that he's a chef, when in fact it turns out that he's a line cook. By the way, why do line cooks have business cards? Since when was that a thing? Anyway, it's convenient, I suppose.
Yeah. I thought he had the business card for his yoga class.
Oh, was he instructing yoga?
I thought he was.
He,
Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I
oh,
assumed.
okay, that would make more sense. He said, "Oh, my class is starting now, so I've got to go," kind of thing. But I thought it was,
Yeah, so I guess I just assumed he was teaching it.
yeah, and I assumed he was attending it. So
See
maybe,
the difference?
yeah, exactly. Maybe they need to make this stuff clearer.
They do, because I don't know.
No. So I was confused as to why he had a business card as a line cook, but that would make more sense if he
Yeah.
was a yoga instructor. Anyway, Edith tells Travis that she knows a good match when she sees one. So Travis caves and agrees to have breakfast with Grant and says he'll be in touch. But he isn't in touch. He doesn't reach out like he said he would. So Grant ends up just turning up at 19 for breakfast because he thought they'd made tentative plans and he didn't want to be the guy that doesn't turn up for them. And Travis then blows him off and says he can't do breakfast, and then breaks into a big speech about how he could die at any minute and leave Grant heartbroken. But then Grant offers an alternative version of the future, saying that in Travis's version, he's already got them married off and Grant widowed, but he had just turned up to 19 for breakfast, and then he would maybe take Travis to dinner. That's only if breakfast goes well. So, a far calmer and more rational approach to life. Travis agrees to have breakfast, and Vic is pretending very badly to be cleaning the truck whilst listening into their conversation the whole time. Did I miss anything?
No, and this episode, because you always ask me this question, so I'm going to answer it before you do. I really started to appreciate Vic more.
Yeah.
She starts to be more of the goofy Vic
Yes.
that we're used to, right?
Yeah.
Like when Travis walks away from Grant and he's like, "Well, obviously it'll never work." She's like, "Well, obviously." You know, I just really appreciated her little funny tidbits that she does. So we're getting more into the Vic that I appreciate.
Yeah, she's sort of growing into her character more, and she's less than. I think she's becoming more well-rounded, isn't she? and less of just this like
Yeah,
snarky,
she is.
grumpy badass.
Yeah.
I quite liked Grant and Travis both have a little bit of a monologue at the end, and I quite liked both of them. I thought they were quite well written. They weren't overdone. I thought they were paced really nicely. They weren't melodramatic or anything. My dogs are likely to bark because someone's about to put something through the letterbox. We got away with it. Whew. And I like Grant. He says in his little speech that he's a straightforward guy, and I think that he seems to be.
Yeah, I liked Grant a lot too, and I feel like they ended that a little bit quicker than I would have liked. I would have liked to have explored that relationship a lot more. I know I'm getting ahead, but
No, no, I agree.
yeah, I really would have liked to seen them together longer because I really liked Grant a lot. I think he was good for Travis in a lot of ways.
Samesies. And I've actually written down a question for you. So I have written down, do you think that Travis is attracted to drama? Because, and I've said in my next thing, spoiler alert, it doesn't work out with straightforward Grant. So I've skipped ahead as well. And his next relationship is with Emmett, who is closeted and is the son of 19's nemesis.
Oh,
And then he
Dixon.
goes out with Eli, who was working for him and who was dating Andy at the same time. So, do we think it's because Travis, who on the surface isn't a dramatic guy, he's always the voice of reason for everybody, but do you think that it appears that maybe Travis is attracted to drama because he could have this straightforward guy and it doesn't work out, and then he has two messy relationships subsequently?
Do you know what?
What?
I think that it works out with people that it will never work out with long term. I think that because, another spoiler alert, he never got over Michael, which we see that big fight scene between Vic and Travis
Yep.
when we find that out. Um, and I think he's not ready to settle down yet. And I think that with Grant, it could have worked out, even though Grant's against marriage, which we find out. I think it could have worked out as a long term relationship. And so I think because Travis is not ready for that, he sabotages the relationship and is with people that he knows it won't work out with.
Self sabotage. Good thinking. Yep.
Yep, I do. I really do. Because we knew it wasn't going to work out with Emmett, even though I think it could have if they would have. I don't know. I don't know about Emmett. I don't know if that they really were right for each other. And
Nah,
and with Eli, we don't
say
know
that.
yet because they're
No, we
they're
don't.
still together. Well, are they together? I don't know.
Yeah, they were at the. They turned up at the firefighters' ball together, didn't they? And had little kissy photos, and
Oh my God, season six finale was the best finale ever. I've watched that more times than
it
I
was a
care to
good
admit.
one. It was
I
a
don't
good
want to be
one.
judged.
No one's judging you. Look, if
It-
people are listening to us chat about Station 19, they're not judging you. This is not an audience that's going to judge you for watching the finale multiple times.
so the reasons I've watched it so many times are for the Maya and Karina scenes, seeing Andy kick butt as captain, and
Yeah.
seeing my TV wife, Chief Ross, get in danger. I just like those three things. That episode was so freaking good.
It was a good one. It was a good one.
Sorry, it
No,
was so
it
good.
was good. It was
Now I
great.
gotta watch it again.
Don't put it on now.
Yeah.
Let us get through this first.
Oh, sorry, I won't. Okay.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, don't bin me off just yet. Um, is there anything else for Travis? Oh, well, I guess we see the Travic relationship developing now because they go to yoga together.
Yeah, we do.
They go to the medical call together. Then they go to the fire drill that Maya set up, that we'll talk about in a minute, together. They're leaving together when Grant arrives for breakfast. And then Vic doesn't leave without Travis. She hangs around cleaning, in inverted commas. So I guess we're seeing the start of Travic now.
We are, which I love the Travic relationship, so I'm happy that we're finally
Yeah.
starting to see it.
Anything else for Travis?
No, I think we actually talked quite a bit about something that was a small part of the episode.
That seemed like a really small part, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
funny how we can do that, but I think it just goes to show as well that sometimes it's these little things that appear incidental in the episode that aren't incidental in the long term at all. They're just a really important part of the arc of the characters and the show. So it's something that can seem so incidental at the time turns out to be massive in the big picture.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Um, shall we pick up with Pruitt?
Yes.
So we actually literally pick up where we left off in the last episode, because the last episode we left him at Grey Sloan asking for Miranda Bailey. And now we pick up with Bailey coming to see him in his hospital room. And she says that she wants to check him over. And so he then walks because he's worried that in checking him over, she'll find something that means that he has to be admitted. And then he goes home and lies to Andy because Andy had come home from the incinerator, hadn't she, trying to tell him about his day, and he wasn't there. So he's now come home and says to Andy, "Oh, I was at poker night," which she seems to just accept, which why wouldn't she? And she tells him about ignoring the Mayday at the incinerator and being ranked dead last. And that's sort of that. Then Bailey, which is the bit that you've got stuff to say about. So Bailey comes to work with Ben, and she's sort of looking around, isn't she? Seeing if she can see Pruitt, and tries to sort of dance around Hipper quite badly and tells Ben to look out for Pruitt because on this particular day, Ben isn't the firefighter that she's worried about. So when Pruitt does tip up, he's visibly unwell, which Ben notices because he's been asked to notice by his wife, but Dean just notices of his own volition because I think Dean's a bit of a softie and is quite an empathetic chap. And Dean, then this is, he finds Ben and asks in a not so subtle way what nausea might mean for somebody. And Ben knows immediately that Dean is referencing Pruitt. So Dean and Ben pull him into an office and try to talk to him about being ill. But he just dismisses them and tries to leave, but almost passes out in doing so, just as Andy walks in. So they all then take him to the hospital. So Bailey then tells Pruitt that his cancer is progressing and it's time to try a more aggressive treatment, but that the side effects are going to be gnarly. And Bailey sort of accidentally lets it slip because she obviously didn't know that she needed to keep it a secret, that Pruitt has been keeping his condition from Andy. And Pruitt's defensive and says that he's been dealing with things in his own way. And Andy then sort of bites back and snaps at him. Bailey tells her there's no yelling and that they're going to be there all day if she wants a break. So Pruitt thanks Bailey for getting rid of Andy, but Bailey says that Andy's loud but right and tells him to talk to his damn daughter. God, I love Miranda Bailey. Outside, Warren tries to help Andy and explains the treatment to her, but Andy accuses him of handling her and says she doesn't need to be treated like one of his patients. And he then later finds her and says that he wasn't trying to treat her like any other patient's family. He was trying to treat her like his family. That Pruitt's got a long road ahead of him. So whilst he'd prefer that she didn't yell at Bailey, she can yell at him for now so that she can yell at her dad later and just be there for him now. And Andy tells Warren that he's the most annoying rookie she's ever had, but that she'll go and talk to her dad anyway. Ben tells her about the big call at the strip mall, but she sends him and says that she's going to stay with her dad because they are having the conversation that they have needed to have, in which she tells Pruitt that as much as he wants to spare her the pain of his cancer, he was the one that taught her to face things head on and that he's all she has. So as much as he wants to keep things to himself, it's all very much her business. And he says that he was always the strongest one and that he needs her to back off. And because it is so difficult, isn't it? When you're, can you imagine? Because you're a parent, you know, you're the one that's always been there taking care of your kid. I think having that like role reversal must be the toughest thing. Have to rely on other people to take care of you.
It's interesting that you say that because I'm a mother, but I'm also a daughter, and
Yeah.
I'm very for our listeners that might not know, I'm very close to my mother. Um, you know, she lives with me, and she's been with me every day of my life, even after I got married. And um, if my mom were to keep something like this from me, I would be livid
Yeah.
because first, it would mean that I can't be there for her as a nurse. And secondly, it would mean that I can't take care of her, which is something I try to do. However, if it were me that had it, I don't know if I would tell my boys
Yeah.
because I'd want to protect my boys from that. And so I see it from both ways very
Yeah.
strongly. Um, and so that's tough
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Because you can see both sides of it. So it's a really tough one to watch, I think.
Yeah.
So he's saying, no, I need you to back off. I need to do this my way. And it must be so rough for him having been the one in charge and being the big, strong, tough guy and the person that everyone and mostly his daughter has relied on for all these years. And now to have to maybe admit that he's not as strong as he was and have to rely on his team who he's used to being in charge of, and now he's kind of passing out in front of them and needs to be taken care of, and having to admit to his daughter that he needs her help. It's really tough for him. So he tells her that he needs her to back off, and she tells him unequivocally that she won't be backing off. And then we find out that she promised her mother before she died. And if people are watching along with us for the first time, I won't say any more.
Yeah.
But her mother, Andy tells us that her mother, before she died, promised that she would take care of her father. And so that's what she's doing. She's taking care of him the best she can. So she says to him that he cannot shut her out because of this. And before he can argue, he slips out of consciousness and all the machines start to beep furiously. So Bailey works on him, gets him back to some sort of stability, and says that he's had an allergic reaction to the cancer treatment and that this could happen literally every time that he has this treatment. So Andy wants to explore other treatment options because of the toll it's taking on his body. And Pruitt says that the cancer will take a bigger toll, so he wants to keep going with this aggressive treatment, but tells Bailey that she's now to keep Andy in the loop as well and to make her part of the process. So that was like a nice resolution to that. And then Andy sits by his bed while he sleeps, and then Dean turns up to take over and sends Andy home. And it appears that Ryan has probably been watching, Maya might say, like a stalker for Andy to get home because he's banging on her door within seconds of her walking in, telling her about his night at the strip mall. And then within a few more seconds, they're shirtless on the sofa.
Yeah.
So that was that. So, how do you feel about Dean now? Because I remember us talking about Dean, and you said that you thought he was kind of an arrogant guy. You weren't a big Dean fan.
You know, I'm still not a big Dean fan overall. He was in this episode more likable, but I don't want to say any spoilers. It's so hard not to. But there might be people that are just starting to watch the show. So
Yeah,
um, he's just not my favorite one out of the cast. That's all. And
yeah,
even though he has likable moments for me, overall as a character, he's not my most favorite character.
yeah.
So yes, he was more likable in this episode. He was sweet in this episode. He was caring. You know, he showed up for Andy. That shows empathy. Overall, though, just not a huge Gene fan.
No, that's fine. No, and I think it'll be interesting because when we spoke about it a few episodes ago, whenever it was, you said that you thought that he was quite arrogant, like maybe a cocky guy. So at the moment, I haven't seen that. And as you say, in this episode, he's super sweet and he seems to think a lot about people, and he has kind of noticed the stuff about Pruitt. He hasn't, whereas I'm not saying that Ben wouldn't have noticed, but Ben's been put on alert by Bailey, whereas Dean just appears to just have noticed things on his own and be looking out. And then he's sought Warren's advice about whether he thinks that he should go to Andy. And then he's gone to the hospital so that Andy can have some rest. And nobody's asked him to do it. He's just gone out of his way to do it. So I think that shows how decent and kind and thoughtful he is. But it'll be interesting to see whether they keep Dean like this or whether they harden him up and make him a bit more arrogant later on, because I may come round to your way of thinking as it goes on.
Yes, I think my opinion of Dean is definitely something that grew over time in the later episodes. You know, he can be very judgmental and like his way is the right way, and I'm talking about later episodes.
Yeah,
That I saw him that way.
yeah.
Um, and so, but again, they he does also have kind qualities, but just overall, just not. I was never really touchy feely with his character.
That's fair enough. And I think that's one of the great things about going back and watching this in detail, because obviously we've seen the show front to back, but you and I are similar in that we've sort of cherry picked a bit with the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
We've both seen it out of order as well, because neither of us started from the pilot. You started from season 2, I started from season 3. And so when you watch things out of order, you kind of lose an overview and you meet people where they are and haven't seen where they've come from. So I think that's been really interesting for us. We've noticed a massive difference with Jack, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
For the Jack now of the Jack in the later seasons. And so I think it'll be really interesting. And I don't mean it in a cold way, or I don't mean it the way it's probably going to come out, but I've never really paid that much attention to Dean either, because my focus was more on, let's face it, Maya and Karina, as a general rule. So I think there's always going to be certain characters in TV shows that you gravitate more towards, right? But now that I'm watching it with a view to doing this podcast, I'm not watching it in such a casual way. And I am giving everyone equal attention so that I don't just gloss over bits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm finding actually that I am paying more attention. Like, I didn't have such a dislike for Andy, but now that I'm kind of paying attention to Andy's words and Andy's actions, I'm like, you're a terrible friend. And so I am paying more attention to Dean now. So it'll be interesting as we go through the seasons and I pay more attention to Dean, whether my opinion of him changes and whether I do see him as more arrogant and a little bit too big for his boots as we get to those episodes, or whether my opinion of him was based on a casual interaction with him rather than sort of a deep looking into him.
Yeah, I agree. I want to ask your opinion on something.
Mm.
Um, at the Paris Con, a lot of the fans, you know, I don't know if you guys know, but Camilla Luddington was at the Paris Con, who I guess plays Joe Wilson on Grey's. Is that her name?
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and a huge crowd of the fans, a pretty big majority, said that they wanted to see Joe and Jack as a couple together. What do you think about that?
Do you know what? I saw that because of something that one of them, I follow Grey Damon and Camilla Luddington on Instagram.
Yeah, Camilla posted a thing.
Yeah, and they were so funny, and they were talking about it, and they were getting closer and closer and closer.
Yeah.
And then Grey Damon was like, "Okay, bye,"
Yeah.
and like made a swift exit. Like it was
Yeah.
very, very funny. I follow Camilla Luddington because she is funny. She's very, very funny, and the stuff that she puts on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to watch Grey's to follow Camilla Luddington because she is just funny. The stuff that she posts, and she posts stuff about being a mum, where she's drinking red wine and
Yeah.
pretending to be drunk as hell while her kids are like smashing the house up and stuff.
Yeah.
She's very, very entertaining. And that thing with Grey Damon was very entertaining. I don't get it. I don't understand the Jack and Joe thing.
I don't know Joe's character enough to do that, but I don't know. I just wanted your opinion.
I mean, they both had similar upbringings because Joe, I don't know if Joe was, I can't remember if Joe was in the foster care system, but I know that she had a very, very, very troubled childhood. And as a young adult, she like lived in her car for a time. She's very gritty and very kind of self made in the way that Jack had to be. But I don't see Joe and Jack. I don't see Joe and Jack. And Joe's had this thing with another one of the doctors who's her best friend. They've been best friends for like 20 years or something. And there's been a will they, won't they thing between she and him for like 2 years. And they finally got it together in the last episode of this most recent season of Grey's. And he literally is the polar opposite of Jack. So I don't get it. But, maybe it's a straight person thing. I don't understand straight people, man.
I appreciated the history of Joe. I didn't know that. The last thing I heard you say was that you didn't get straight couples, and I laughed at you, just so you know. But you didn't.
Yeah,
You couldn't hear me because my computer went haywire.
maybe it's a straight person thing. I don't know. But I don't get it.
I don't know. To be fair, though, and I don't mean this in a. If this comes out wrong, you will delete it, right? You won't put it on the podcast.
Yeah,
Okay. To be fair, the majority of Marina fans are not straight.
true.
Like the majority of Marina fans, I'm at least in my experience, are not straight. So
Oh, yeah, and I guess they were there for the Marina thing. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
the crowd of from the con are the ones who
True. I didn't. Yeah. So
I don't
it's
know
so
if it's
it's
straight people or not. That's all I'm
okay. So it's
saying.
not straight people that are saying that. Okay. Well, yeah, I don't get the Jack and Joe thing for sure. But I'm happy to be in the minority. And
Yeah, you never know. We never know what will happen if they put them together or not.
no, and I don't get her being with the milk toast that they've put her with on Grey's Anatomy either. But yeah, I don't get the guy that she's with. Don't get why anyone would find that sort of personality attractive. But there we go.
Well, and if I remember correctly, the episodes of Grey's that I have seen, at one point wasn't she in an abusive relationship as well? Like wasn't her husband abusive at one point or something on the show?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah. They brought him back in at some point. Yeah, she was supposed to be married to an abuser, and then she was married to a guy called Alex Karev, he was one of the original cast of Grey's. She was married to him for a really long time, and I can't remember at what point the abusive husband came back, and if she was with Alex at that time. But yes, so she has been in an abusive relationship before. Yeah,
So I do think that Jack
yeah,
would like I don't see him being that way. I think he would be a good partner to her because he is kind and caring and considerate, but I don't know if their qualities go together.
yeah. No, they. I think they'd make really good friends because they have had similar. But I don't see, because Joe's very kind of ballsy and very straightforward, and she's very like high energy, and Jack is, well, like I said last week, like has to be reminded to brush his hair and his teeth in the morning, and I can't see Joe finding those qualities attractive in Jack
Okay.
because I think she'd find that annoying. I can't see her wanting to mother someone or nurse someone back to. I don't think they're equals.
All I'm going to say is
I think it would be a slog for her to have to try and take care of him.
one of the few episodes of Grey's I saw, she slept with Levi when he was a intern.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, his glasses fell on her face while they were doing the deed.
Either I haven't seen that or I don't remember it, but I think I would
Yeah,
remember that. That's
he,
funny.
yeah, he got on her bad side because he was in on one of her surgeries and his glasses fell off inside the patient.
Oh, fell in. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, fell
Yeah.
in. And then later on, he ran into her at the bar at Joe's and offered to buy her a drink. And then all of a sudden, they're back at his mom's house in the basement doing the deed, and his glasses fall on her face.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back and watch that.
Yeah, so I'm
Oh
just saying,
dear. Yeah.
You know,
That's funny.
she does some shady stuff as
She's
far as I've
made some odd
seen.
choices.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing that would work out well with her and Jack is it appears that her daughter, so she's got an adoptive, which is like a similar situation. You know, there's the will they, won't they with Marina adopting the baby that they just did the emergency C-section of in the finale. Like if the mother doesn't make it.
Yeah.
There was a bit of a thing like that in Grey's where Joe was taking care of this pregnant woman who died either in the process of or just after the baby was born. And again, I think it had to be, yeah, because Karina says that this is the weirdest C-section I've ever done because the baby's growing on this woman's liver
Oh.
instead of in the
Oh.
womb.
Huh.
But anyway, the mother dies and Joe ends up adopting the kid.
Uh-huh.
So it might be a bit of a recycled thing if Marina end up adopting this kid. But anyway, the kid who Joe has now adopted, it looks like she's going to be either deaf or hard of hearing.
Okay.
So Jack already knows ASL, so that would work out.
Yeah. That would work out. Hi, kitty.
My cat's let himself in and he's yelling at me.
Yes.
Well, I don't know what you want. Go catch a mouse or something. He won't stay quiet for long. So I think, again we managed to digress. I love it
We
when we do
have.
this, though. Did we? So we were talking about Andy and Pruitt, weren't we? Did we cover everything off with them? I mean, I think the only thing that's left on my notes is that I've said that I'm glad that Andy and Pruitt had the conversation that they needed to have, and they kind of closed the distance between their very polar opposite positions. And I guess Pruitt was the one that had to move most in order for them to come together. I'm glad he did that. But did we cover everything?
Yeah, I think so. It was a lot that you covered. Um, I loved the way that Bailey danced around HIPAA, you know, because I'm a nurse and HIPAA is very,
Yeah.
very, very regarded um, to be very important, and I have to make sure I follow HIPAA every day with every encounter with every person. And and I loved how she not very well danced around it. Um, like that would
Yeah.
have in real life that would have been horrendous. But I as a nurse I laughed at it the whole time. I thought it was hilarious. Um, and I did appreciate the
I mean, she
way
tried.
she did, but she knew that he knew darn well what she was talking about. She might as well just said it.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I mean, the only thing that she did was she said it in such a way that she could honestly be like, "Well, I didn't say who or where," because she didn't.
No.
But um, but I also appreciated the Pruitt scene, and you know I teared up when again when Andy was like, "It's because I promised mom," and I don't know why, but that scene made me tear up. With I think it's because I was
Yeah.
picturing you know just the dynamic and everything, and I loved that
Yeah.
scene, and I will say I loved Andy in this episode. You know, I've been kind of all over the place with Andy this season, coming from being a really huge Andy fan to being like, "Gosh, Andy, you're kind of mean, and I don't like you anymore." To I really liked Andy in this episode,
Yeah.
and so she had some redeeming qualities in this episode.
Yeah. I could get on board with that. Yeah. I tell you who I liked in this episode. If you're happy for us to move on,
Yeah,
Vic.
yes, I agree. I liked Vic in this episode too.
Yeah. So Vic, on the way back from the call at Edith's, is forced to make an unexpected stop because Travis is driving. And it turns out that Maya has set up some drills for Vic in order to help her get over her fear of fire. And she's struggling with these drills. And Travis asks Maya if she's sure it's a good idea to go in this hard. And she says that sometimes you have to give people the help they need and not the help they want. Oh, Maya.
Yeah.
If only you could see that in a few years' time when your wife asks you to get therapy. And Maya says that sometimes people don't know what's best for them. And she's clearly working through some amazing stuff too, which obviously we'll talk about later. But in her all or nothing way, she tells Vic that Vic needs to push past it when Vic says that she needs to go slower. But in the end, Vic panics, she drops the hose, and she yells at Maya that she's not helping. And then Travis's pager goes off, and they need to get to the fire at the strip mall. And at the incident, Travis, and this is, you were saying earlier when we were talking about the incident that we don't really see anything of anyone, and we don't. This is the only thing we see of anyone who's not Jack, basically. But we see Travis tell Vic to stay near the engine and the hydrant, and that she doesn't need to get any closer to the fire than that. And then when the fire's burning out, she does dare herself to get a little bit closer. And then Maya goes to check on her, and she asks Maya to just stand next to her because she thinks that's what she needs for now. So it wasn't a great deal of Vic. There wasn't a ton of Vic in there. But it seems like she's maybe moving forward a little bit. And I think it's really hard for her to rely on people because of her upbringing. But this shows how much trust she has in them and how much she really does love these people, even though she has like a funny way of showing love. Like it's not necessarily obvious, but the fact that she's kind of able to say to Maya, can you just stand with me? Like that's all I need. I just need the reassurance of having you near me. That's all the help I need.
Yeah.
Just thought that was really poignant.
Yeah, it was. I agree. I appreciated the Vic scenes. Like I said earlier, I'm starting to, even though I loved Vic going into the season one because we've watched it backwards, I didn't like the way they portrayed her in the beginning, and they're starting to soften her and get more to have her be the Vic that I appreciate and like and love, and because I love Vic's character.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, we need to know the backstory of a person, right? And how they got to be who they are. So I love who Vic is and who she was and just that character altogether. But I didn't like the rough kind of. I love her ability to find the humor in situations. That's one of the things I love about her.
Yeah.
And in the earlier episodes, they kind of didn't show that as much, and I think that's what I didn't like about it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think as well, it goes back to, I think at some point I said, when you watch any show from the beginning, it's kind of like starting at a new school or a new place of work, where you just kind of take people at face value to begin with. And then it's as you get to know them that you get to know more about them. And then you understand like what you thought as being brash or what you thought as being like a bit of a weird quirk. When you get to know who they are and the story behind them, it kind of makes sense to you. And I think that whether it happens organically with them writing the show, that they just write these quite basic characters, and then as the writers develop, the backstory develops and they become more evolved, or whether it's they've done it really cleverly in that the character is so mapped out and fully formed in their heads that they just kind of eke it out and feed us a little bit more all the time. Whichever way round it happens, I think it's great that it does happen, and that as it goes on, we learn more and we understand who they are.
Yeah. You said that really well.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
That's because I've had some kip. Bless you. So Maya featured quite heavily in Vic's arc. So shall we talk about Maya?
Sure.
So I thought Maya had a big old episode.
Yeah.
She starts out with Andy, and they're doing a vaccine drive at a homeless camp. And on the way, Andy actually asks Maya how she's feeling about something.
See, Andy had some redeeming qualities in this episode.
Yeah.
I said it.
So, you did. And she actually shows interest in Maya's feelings and Maya's life. So she asks Maya how she feels about potentially seeing her brother, and Maya, in her usual kind of robotic, I cannot show emotion way, says that she doesn't know whether he'll be pleased to see her or whether he'll look at her in the way that says that he hates her because she's abandoned him like everyone else in her life. And she sarcastically says that it should be fun. And sure enough, Mason's there, and Maya tells him that he looks good. And he says that she was never a good liar. Andy introduces herself to him and offers him a hepatitis vaccine, which he declines. And Maya says no needles. So presumably this is because of his drug use. But he tells Maya that he's not using at the moment. So Maya tells Mason that she's brought him some supplies, but he says he's fine and doesn't want handouts. And she says, well, you're not fine. You're living on the streets. And she asks him again. Actually, I don't know if she managed to ask him when she went to the police station to come and live with her, because he left, didn't he, before she
Yep.
got the chance to ask him to move in.
Yep.
So she finally gets the opportunity then to ask him to move in with her, but he says he's happy living on the streets because he's painting again and he's found community, basically, on the streets, and tells her to get off her high horse and leave him alone. And then after the call, she goes back to the homeless community and wakes Mason up by throwing a blanket over him. And he tries to tell her again to leave him alone, but she cuts him off by handing him a flask, telling him to take the soup, and then throws him a tote, saying that the things that she thinks he needs and the things that he thinks he needs are completely different. So she's brought him both. And she's here when he needs more. And she leaves, leaving him with the tote. And he goes in there and finds that there's painting supplies in the bag. And then she drags Vic out on a run with her and runs past Mason's camp, finds that his tent's gone, but there's a beautiful mural on the wall where he was. And again, it was a really small part of the episode, but actually, for me, I think had the most impact.
Yeah, it was very powerful scenes, and showing kind of the softer side of Maya, right, that we haven't necessarily seen yet and that we don't see
Yeah.
often. So I appreciated Maya in this scene.
And she had so much growth in that episode.
She
So
did.
she learns from Vic and then implements it immediately.
Yeah. Yep.
So she starts off by pushing her idea of help onto Vic and Mason, following the give people what they need, not what they want model, which is basically an I know best model, right? And then when Vic asks her to literally do nothing but stand next to her and be there for her, she does just that. And then she goes and does the same for Mason. So shows that she's heard and understood him, but she's brought him a blanket and food instead of pressuring him to move in. And then she's also bringing him art supplies so that he can express himself without the risk of being arrested again. And then just basically tells him that the next move is his and that she'll just be there. So I just thought it was just massive for Maya.
Yeah, and I don't want to say spoilers, but I do want to say that it makes me sad that it is a spoiler, I guess. Sorry, guys. It makes me sad that we don't see Mason a lot in the seasons,
Yeah.
because I would have liked to have seen that brother, especially in season 6, right, when he could have maybe helped her because he grew up in the same home.
Yeah.
He could have maybe helped her through the mental break and the severe mental crisis she was in that we saw. It would have been nice to maybe see that brother come back and be a light for her, as she was trying to be a light for him.
Yeah.
And so it really made me miss Mason.
Maybe this could be something that they explore in series to come, though, because they've given Maya a mental health crisis and they gave Karina a crisis of her own with her own brother when, they killed him. Like, that's about as big as crises get. And they've given them a crisis in their marriage. So, because obviously you need some sort of friction to create drama to make things interesting, right? So maybe now that Maya's worked through the trauma that was inflicted upon her in their childhoods, maybe they can bring Mason back and that can be like the next bit of conflict and the next bit of drama for Maya and Karina, is trying to deal with Mason and maybe trying to help him with his addiction and trying to help him work through their childhood trauma. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it would be powerful, and the writers could be so creative with that storyline that there's just could be a lot there for the writers for sure.
Yeah, and also because he's suffered with addiction, and we know that Shondaland likes to deal with prevalent social issues.
Hmm.
So addiction, the homelessness crisis. There's a lot there, and Karina could be massively helpful as well because she had a brother that had mental health issues and also grew up in not the not
Hmm.
the best and safest home environment, but she's far enough removed from it that it's not her trauma. So I think it would be a great thing for them to explore. Bring him back.
Yeah, bring Mason back.
Yeah. Did you have anything else to say about Maya?
No, just I guess just that I'm when I watched it the first time, I wasn't a huge Maya fan. I didn't really become a huge Maya fan until Karina came in the picture because she softened her up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm appreciating Maya for different reasons now that I'm really paying attention to the little details that I didn't. I'm not just fangirling over Andy. You know,
Yeah.
I'm seeing different things, and so yeah, I Maya's more likable this the second time around in the earlier seasons.
Yeah, I think she's got a lot more depth than people give her credit for.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. And it's nice to see the little subtleties because I think Danielle was doing a lot of heavy lifting with not a massive amount of material for some of the episodes. And so it's really nice now that we're getting to see the little glimpses of brilliance that she was bringing to the character in these early days that we know that she will go on and smash in years to come. But I think the little subtleties in Danielle Savory's delivery really adds to the complexity of Maya. It's nice to see that.
Yeah, and I agree. I have felt that way too, like that she's done so much with such little material.
Yeah,
Um and I mean, as we've seen, like you said, in the years later, her acting is phenomenal with what she's able to do, with the little what she does with her hands and her facial expressions and the way she moves her head, the nonverbal cues that she's able to give that we see a lot more later on. Um, it really, I don't think I gave her the props that she deserved in the earlier seasons
no,
with such little material,
yeah,
for
agreed,
sure.
agreed.
Yeah,
Well, I think that for me is pretty much the episode.
that's episode 7, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
So much better than last week.
it was. The incident for me let it down a bit. That was the only thing that fell flat for me, was the
Yeah,
incident.
yeah, but they made up for it in other ways, I think.
Yeah, because there was so much personal growth with the characters. There was a lot
Yeah.
of strengthening of relationships and bonds. A lot of the dialogue was really well written, I thought, like the stuff between Travis and Grant, stuff between Ben and Bailey. We had great stuff between Pruitt and Bailey, Pruitt and Andy, Myra and Mason. All of that was great. Yeah, so I suppose if something's got to give, I'd rather the incident be a bit meh than
Yeah.
than the other stuff. Did you see any themes in this one?
I think personal growth was probably the theme because we saw growth with Pruitt and Andy, we saw growth with Vic, we saw growth with Maya. So I think personal growth was what I saw.
Yeah, I think similarly, I thought communication and trust. So maybe like growth within relationships or trusting relationships. So I think, yeah, communication, trust, and like narrowing the chasm, I think, between people coming to an understanding of each other. So
Mm,
Maya came to understand through Vic how to help both Vic and Mason. And then Pruitt and Andy now have a better understanding of each other. And Ben and Miranda, through their communication,
hmm.
now have a better understanding of each other. So
Yeah.
maybe that. And I think several people showed themselves to be trustworthy as well. Pruitt trusts Andy with his medical information now. Ben trusts Miranda with his emotional baggage. Maya showed Mason that she can be trusted, that she understands him, and she's a person that he can rely on. Everyone just, yeah, as you say, grew overall, I think, in this episode. I thought it was a.
Hmm.
The more I've spoken about it with you, actually, yeah, the bigger this episode has become, I think, in my mind, for moving things forward with them. So,
Yeah.
from watching this one, is there anything that you're looking forward to seeing in episode 8 or episodes thereafter? What are your like takeaways from this one?
That's hard. That's hard to look at it that way because I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, see, I haven't watched episode 8 yet. I haven't done my rewatch yet, so I'm still in the dark.
mm, I would say because I don't remember what happens with Mason, I would say I would like to see what happens with Mason, if it's just a forgotten storyline or if we actually see more of that, because that I don't remember.
Yeah.
So not for season 8 necessarily, but for the seasons to come, to see the Mason storyline, because that really stuck with me after this episode.
Yeah. I'm going to stick with what I said last week, which is I can't remember how Andy convinces the board that she's captain material. But I'll add to that I can't remember how and where Jack falls down, because Pruitt says to Andy in this episode that Ripley is a hard man to impress. And
Hmm.
Jack's impressed him twice now, because he impressed him at the incinerator and then he impressed him at the incident in this episode. So if Jack's coming off as so impressive and he still hasn't yet seen Andy shine, I'm looking forward to seeing how that all comes around.
Yeah, I agree, because I can't see Ripley not giving it to Jack just because Pruitt said he doesn't recommend either of them. I can't see him being like that, weighing so heavy to take away how impressed he was, right? Like that can't be the only reason he doesn't pick Jack. There has to be something else.
Because I'm not very familiar at all with the first two seasons, I obviously know from Andy becoming captain of 23, or interim captain of 23, that at some point she obviously passes the captain's exam, but Jack's stuck as lieutenant. So I'm assuming that he doesn't. And I can't remember how all of that works itself out. So it can only really be that Jack screws up somewhere and Andy excels somewhere. But I can't remember. So at least something is going to be a nice surprise for me, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's something that I've said before on previous recordings is I don't remember when Jack loses his desire to be captain. Like
Yeah.
he wanted to be captain so bad, and then all of a sudden he's just happy as lieutenant. Like what changes or what happens that he doesn't care about that anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's nice that some of it's still a surprise to us.
Yeah.
Who did you think? I mean, we've established that everybody had a real sort of growth spurt in this episode, but who do you think had the best growth?
That's tough. I think it's either Vic or Maya,
Okay.
in my opinion, just because they both incorporated change very quickly.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know.
I was 50% with you. I said Pruitt and Maya,
Oh, okay.
because to go from leave me alone, this is mine to handle, stay out of my business, to saying to
Hmm.
Bailey, Andy needs to be looped in on all of my medical decisions going forward.
Yeah.
I thought that was a massive move for him to make, and I think that's taken a huge shift for him to do that. So I thought that Pruitt made quite a monumental leap in this one. And Maya had such a quick turnaround as well, like immediately learned her lesson from Vic, listened, understood the brief, and put forward a new brief.
Yeah. Okay.
What was your favourite scene?
God, that's hard. Probably with Andy. Um, I don't know why, but I always like hearing Jana Lee Ortiz speak Spanish. I think it's cool when they can incorporate that part of her culture
Yeah,
into the show. And so I really appreciated the bedside scene because we kind of knew what she was saying based on what Bailey was saying to Pruitt, even though there were no subtitles. We kind of like knew what she was going off. And
Yeah.
I was raised by a German mother, so like when my mom switches to German, I know most
That
of the
you're in
time
trouble.
I'm in trouble. Like she
Yeah.
doesn't, or it's something she doesn't want other people to understand.
Yeah.
Um, but mostly it's when I'm in trouble. And so I can appreciate that in that scene. So I think, that scene made me chuckle and I appreciated that a lot.
Yeah, nice. Good choice.
Yeah. How about you?
I went for Vic and Maya at the strip mall fire when Vic asks Maya to
Mm,
stand with her. And I
yeah.
thought the acting I loved the symbolism of it, but I also really loved the acting from both of them. But I have to say that I thought Danielle's acting was really outstanding because you actually see the realization on Maya's face. You see it hit her like,
Hmm.
oh, sometimes all you need to do is stand next to somebody and let them know that you're there for them. You don't have to run into the burning building or protect somebody from something. Sometimes you just have to stand by their side. Oh, and I think that you kind of see it dawn on her, but in a very subtle way. So I really appreciated that,
Yeah.
like all round.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, did you have a favorite line or a favorite piece of dialogue?
I had many. Um, but my favorite line, which was also my most gifable moment, because I know you're going to ask me that,
I am.
um, was when Bailey was like, she's loud, but she's right.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that whole dialogue, and that would be my most gifable moment is Bailey saying that, or Vic, when Travis was like, so it'll never work, obviously, and when Vic's like, yeah, obviously. Those are probably my two gifable moments.
Nice. Nice, nice.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, my bit of dialogue, I think I always go from the sublime to the ridiculous with dialogue. I either go for the really meaty things, like
uh-huh.
like Vic's. If I ever let the emotions pass the dam in my throat and all that's like it either has to be something
Hmm.
really meaty like that or something really dumb. And in this one, I've gone for really dumb. So I liked it when Rice said, "I'm not undermining his authority by calling him a boy."
Oh yeah, yeah, that was funny.
And my most giftable moment was Dean's reaction to Jack and Ryan fighting.
Uh, okay,
I can imagine sending that in a group chat if a couple of people were
yeah,
chewing each other out, just like sending that reaction, just like, oh God, this
yeah,
again.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's it. That's 107.
107. Yeah, that hopefully this was more interesting to listen to.
Well, there was football chat, so obviously it'll be more interesting to listen to.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. This one was definitely more fun to record.
Yeah, definitely, and much more fun to watch.
Hmm.
It wasn't like swimming through treacle, this one. I felt like last week's was a proper swim through treacle.
It was brutal.
And 108, I think you're more up to date than me. Have you watched 108 more recently than I have?
A couple weeks ago, I watched it, so I'll have to watch it again.
Okay, a couple of years ago I watched it, so I'm definitely going to have to watch it again.
Okay.
But it's called Every Second Counts, and it says Ripley interviews each member of the Station 19 crew. Oh, I'm going to get some resolution to determine whether Andy or Jack should be given the role of captain. Meanwhile, a mom's day out on a party bus takes a turn for the worst, and Captain Pruitt continues his treatment.
Oh, so you know what? I have not watched this one recently. I started it, but I stopped it maybe 10 minutes in. So I will need to watch this one because I,
So
I stopped it like when the lady got on the party bus.
okay, so surprises for us both to come in this episode then.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, I'll get and watch it quick then.
All right.